Some people say 2023 is the best year for video games, but others are saying it's the worst, not because of the game titles that we're getting out, but because of the behavior of game studios. This is a cow's opinion. I can't afford sound, yeah. I'll work on that. Guys, welcome back to A Cow's Opinion, where I give you the latest and the greatest, and honestly, sometimes just the dumbest and worst gaming news, because today, Sony's game studio cuts all continuing with legendary producer Bungie getting rid of 8% of their staff. Now, as we all know, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, and there haven't been any major real cuts that anyone's heard of from that yet. Hopefully, we won't get it, but I don't know how happy I am to say it will never happen, because it's probably going to happen. That's just what cost-cutting does sometimes. Although Microsoft hasn't said they want to cut costs, so, you know. But Sony has said that they need to be able to keep up with Microsoft, but they're not keeping up in the best way, because this year, multiple Sony studios have had major layoffs. Today was no exception, because on All Hallows Eve, Bungie has been announced and found to have laid off 100 staff members, and it gets worse for something that we'll talk about later. So it was confirmed today that on Monday, Bungie was the latest Sony Interactive Entertainment studio to be hit with layoffs, though the scope of the job cuts was not clear. This is from Mr. Chris Scullion on VGG. Video Games Chronicle, not VGG. So yesterday we knew cuts were happening, but I didn't report it because we didn't really have a lot of information. Today, they found out that there is 100 people. Now, I've confirmed this through several other articles, including part of the Bloomberg, but I don't pay for Bloomberg because it's a channel on a budget. But the problem that Bungie was having is that their revenue is 45% below what they were projected, mainly due to what their chief executive officer, Pete Parsons, says was poor player retention for Destiny 2. Now, the last expansion or show of Destiny have not done well, and they're hopeful, as we'll talk a little more in the article, about the future, but the future is hard to get to when you are 45% below. That means for every dollar of revenue, you're only making 55 cents. That's literally half, guys. It's amazingly low. It's a missing. I know it sounds like, well, you still have half. If a business misses by half, it's like literally missing by a mile. It's pathetic. It's not great. Now, staff have been told that their newest expansion and their marathon game are being delayed. I'm talking major delays. The Final Shape, which is the game's next expansion, has been delayed from February to June of next year. So that's 4 months, but remember, it's still 2 months away. So now we are half a year away from the expansion, which was really only in February, probably just to come out, but after all of the big Christmas rush. Now, the Final Shape was supposed to be Bungie's attempt to really win players back. It is going to be the final part of the current storyline in Destiny 2, and they have really high expectations for it because they say it's really good, but it's being delayed. Marathon, their other game, is being delayed until 2025 to give more staff more time, and they're going to need that time because, again, as we saw, Parsons had told staff that salary and hiring freezes would be taking place, but just 2 weeks later, on yesterday, 100 people got their heads cut off. Disgusting. Now, Forbes has a writer named Paul Tassi who has also tweeted from a source that many employee benefits lasted only until the end of the month. Guys, yesterday was October 30th. Today is October 31st. Literally, their benefits ran out in a single day. Bloomberg is also saying that, but they are noting that at least healthcare is separate and will be for 3 months. So at least you won't have to worry about it until the new year. But guys, you cut people off and they have benefits for 1 day? Just not the kind of corporate behavior I expect for Bungie. But this is even worse than that because, and this gets into my other passion besides video gaming, which is stocks, but it's important. The employee shares, which the majority of which were owned by Bungie employees before Sony's acquisition. So Sony, before, had bought out Bungie. Bungie gave shares to their employees. As you were here X number of years, you got shares, which gives you ownership in the company. If they paid special projects or dividends, you have it. But in this case, when Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, a third of it, $1.2 billion, was to be spent on employee retention and would be used to reward existing employees if they didn't leave or stayed with Bungie for a certain number of years. Since one of the main reasons for Sony's acquisition was to make use of their knowledge base, it was to incentivize the shareholders, in this case the employees, and other creative talent to continue working at Bungie after the acquisition closes. New ownership comes in, there's a chance that things are going to change, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, but it can motivate people to go, if there was ever a time to see what my worth is out in the world and go make a change, now would be the time. And Sony was trying to keep the knowledge and the skills from leaving. Now, this is the important part that I really want to get across to you. Eligible employees had unvested shares. Unvested shares means, for example, if the cow has 100 shares, but 80 of them are invested, I technically only have 20 shares. To vest your shares, there's timelines you have to hit. The shares that are put aside for them and can't be accessed until they meet a certain requirement. In this case, staying with Bungie for a certain number of years. So yeah, it's like, hey guys, when we sell the stuff, you're going to have your shares, but you have to be here for X amount of time before the shares kick in. It's to prevent you from literally cashing out and leaving. But according to Tassie's source, these shares revert to Bungie if you leave, even if you're fired, which is what's happening now to many of those affected. And that, my friends, is disgusting behavior of the sleaziest kind and not what I would expect from Bungie. You have literally fired people, which means that of that $1.2 billion, 100 people just lost their share. And that money's not going back to Sony. Bungie probably has it now. So literally reducing their headcount, reducing costs, trying to get more out of less, and we are taking the money that should have gone to you for us selling to Sony. Because it's not like Sony gets a refund. From what the articles I can see, I couldn't find any article that said definite or not, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Bungie gets to pocket that money. I have no idea how much of that $1.2 billion 100 people have. Because, again, it's based on, probably tenure, how long you've been there, as well as how high in the company you were. But if Bungie gets to keep the money for firing people, that's disgusting. The fact that they lose it because they're fired is disgusting. It's literally a way to rob your employees who now only have health care through the holidays and only have benefits for 24 hours on other benefits before they got cut. I don't know what those benefits were, but, it sucks to lose your benefits. You guys, baby Jesus is watching. He's coming right after Turkey Day. The spooks and goblins are tonight. This is scary and not in the fun Halloweeny way. Now, earlier this month, it was reported that the Last of Us studio, Naughty Dog, also cut contracts short for dozens of workers, and several developers announced they've been laid from the visual arts group. They also, at Sony, plan to cut jobs at Dreams and Little Big Planet developer Media Molecule. So, here's the cow's opinion. This sucks! This is not the fun Halloween scares that we wanted, guys. The fact that Bungie is deciding to punish its employees by getting rid of almost 1 out of 10. It's 8%. We've said it several times. We'll say it again. Triple digits, 100 staff members. And that's probably why they've delayed the next Destiny 2 expansion and their next game, Marathon, significantly. 4 months in the final shape into 2025 for Marathon. Because they knew we're going to have 100 less people to make this. We're going to need more time in the oven, guys. And this is after they said, hey, guys, we're not hiring anybody. So those 100 seats, if they're gone, you better hope that if you're still at Bungie, you are not going to be too short-staffed on your team because there's a hiring freeze and you're not getting any more money because there's a salary freeze. And, oh, yeah, if you leave, even if you're fired, you lose your shares from Sony buying out your employer. It was a employee-owned company, and they sold it out, and now the money probably just goes to Bungie. The whole reason, the employee shares, the majority of which were owned by Bungie's employees before Sony's acquisition. This is disgusting behavior. And I looked up several articles where the heads of Bungie were talking. None of them gave newer information from this. And none of them also wanted to comment on, well, what happens to the money or the shares of the employees that you're firing. They are not talking. So probably they're keeping it. Because if they were like, well, no, we're going to make an exception and we're going to give them the money and shares. I mean, they're having money problems because, again, they're 45% down. Was this the way they decided to make up that 45% below projection? They're not saying anything, but I think maybe it was. Maybe that was their way to reduce headcount to both bring down our expenses because we're 45% down. But let's make that 45% up. How do we do that? The employees have shares. We can take them. It's disgusting behavior, guys. And look, I feel bad for the 1,100 people still at Bungie because they can't quit. Their shares are not vested. It'll take at least a couple of years, most likely. And now they have to do the same amount of work with less people. If you've ever been in a job and gone through hiring transitions like I have last year, it sucked. It sucks to do work with less people. And there's really nothing we can do about it, guys. People will talk about video game unions, but the gaming industry is so big and diverse that any kind of change like that, even if it were to happen, and I'm not saying it is, it's going to take a lot of time. I mean a long dadgum time. And they can't leave if Bungie starts doing other stupid things. Because again, they're not invested in their shares. And it's probably I'm watching this Mario exclusive just to try to cheer up, guys. It ain't helping. But it is colorful and wonderful and magical. But there's nothing that we can do short term, guys. And, I mean, you can say boycott Bungie, but that brings into the issue where, Bungie will know why you're mad, but then the other staff could get fired and have their shares lost too. And so, this might not even be a Bungie thing. As the end of the article reminds us, a lot of Sony studios have been cutting jobs and contracts. And I think Sony was really trying to prevent Microsoft from buying Activision Blizzard. And now they're just Sony is killing it with the exclusives. But letting hundreds upon hundreds, maybe even thousands by the time they're done across all game divisions go, letting these people go is not going to help you long term. Especially if Microsoft figures out what they're doing and lives up to, we think that Blizzard is the Pixar of gaming, and we just need to get out of their way and let them do their thing. Guys, I'm not happy. I'm really not. Let me know down in the comments. You can always like the video. It really helps the channel out. You can subscribe. I appreciate it. But today, I want to encourage you to just let me know down there. What do you think about all these layoffs that these Sony studios are having? And what do you think should be done to stop them? Let me know about that down below, guys. I'm not really in the mood. There hasn't been a single trick-or-treater tonight for me to reward with candy, so I have to eat it all, which is depressing enough. Now I feel bad for 100 staff members who gave us the original Halos and Destiny 2, and I don't know what to do. And I'm going to make a transition anyway, because you know what you can do? You can play more games. Games are awesome. This sucks, but you deserve awesome, as do the 100 people who just... Man, 100 brilliant people just lost jobs. I hope they make their own studios and excel, because success is the best revenge. This is a cow's opinion. Thank you so much for watching.